Power Tribe is a community of courageous leaders who are striving to break through barriers and make a lasting impact. I talk one-on-one with the founder of Power Tribe, Kenya Dunn, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Kenya Dunn, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hi, Quintin. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing just great. Needless to say, you are the founder of the Power Tribe, which is a community of courageous leaders who strive to break through barriers and leave a lasting impact. So tell me, Ms. Kenya, what's new, what's now with the Power Tribe?
Oh my goodness, what's new and what's now? Well, what's really new is that we are actually in the middle of open enrollment. So we are very excited to continue to expand our impact and expand the growth of the community. But what's also new is that we are really working on making sure that our members are in places and spaces where we believe women of color should be. So on boards, serving in community leadership roles, as well as their careers and entrepreneurial pursuits.
And tell me, Ms. Kenya, where exactly do you want to expand your particular organization?
Well, I'd love to um, take credit and say that I had this big expansion plan, but what's naturally happening is a lot of inquiry from the Midlands and the upstate of South Carolina, as well as in Georgia. So what we're doing right now is we've created a virtual option
Right.
for members outside of the Charleston region to join us. So we have some new members in Columbia and a few from Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, I love Savannah, a great city there. So,
Yeah.
Ms. Kenya, let me ask you, how many people will you allow to be able to enroll virtually with this option?
So we are capping the virtual option at 15 members, and that's really for operational benefits to ensure that we can take good care and that people get the value for their investment.
And what exactly is that value in this particular investment?
The value in the investment is first and foremost community. So creating a space, what we call in the Power Tribe a sacred space, a space for women of color leaders in particular to be able to be nurtured in their leadership skills. So the Power Tribe community is that place where you can come to build your leadership skills, but also to share when you run up against a roadblock. So that's one of the big benefits. And we do that by offering opportunities to attend webinars virtually, where I will be hosting, as well as some experienced leaders where we share leadership tips. We do workshops to help develop everything from your leadership identity to how do you navigate healthy tension. And so those are all the benefits. And then you just build this amazing sisterhood of women who are like-minded and who support you in your pursuits.
Well, absolutely. You are a leader right now, Ms. Kenya. So what
I am.
exactly is your identity as a leader?
Oh, wow. My identity as a leader is I am the leader's leader. I'm a heart-centered leader. And what that means is I really take the time to get to know the heart of the people that I work with. Whether I am leading in a capacity of corporate America or whether I'm coaching as an executive coach, I think really allowing people to be their most authentic self. And I think our heart speaks to our authenticity speaks through our heart. And so I'm also a heart-centered leader. And I tell people if I had a bird to describe my leadership style, I'm very much so the mother eagle. So I push you out of the nest. So I challenge, I stretch, I understand what's important to you, but I won't let you stop. Growth is not an option when you're working with me.
And so working with these women of color, Ms. Kenya, what are you challenging them to do right now from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, visibility. So every year we come into the year with a word, and last year it was visibility. And visibility meaning to stand in your power and really to step out, let people get to know not just you as a person, but what's your thought leadership, because thought leadership shapes the way the world works. thought leadership shapes how we view each other, how we view business and community. And these women are brilliant. And they're well experienced. And so my challenge to them is to continue to lean into visibility. Moments like an interview, moments to step on a stage and share your story, moments to teach, moments to write. And so the big thing is visibility, followed very closely by investing. And so investment for us is time, talent, and treasure. So how are we investing our money that's serving our purpose, serving our leadership journey, serving the people that matter most to us? And how are we investing in giving back? Because this is not for nothing. We're here to make an impact on the world by first making an impact in our communities.
What is the state of community these days, as you know it, as a leader?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, ma'am. When you think of the community, what is the state of the community these days? What's your view of the
Oh my
community?
God. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it, Quintin. I mean, like since January for sure. I always think about it, and the way that I would respond to that question is it's a multifaceted um, the way that I see it. I see both the challenges, but also I see the beauty in the challenge because, again, for me, I have a growth mindset. And so even in challenges, there's an opportunity for us to grow. And I also see our community as a place where we have the resources that we need in order to become whatever it is that we want to become. And I challenge us to not become a monolith or not to try to box each other in, but to really lean into the unique diversity intra to us. And so I would end your question by saying I think our biggest challenge or obstacle is there's the lost art of storytelling, and there's the lost art of listening to those who have come before us, because the challenges we face, what I now know is that it is nothing new. And my greatest value as a leader myself has been being able to sit at what I call the feet of elders, women and men who have gone before me, and they just share a story or share a moment, and it gives me a tip, a tool, or some inspiration to get back in the game and keep going. So that's the challenge. I think we have to figure out a way to get back to the value of storytelling and spending time with our elders.
What is that tip or inspiration that you've gotten from one of those elders that have actually kept the power tribe alive?
So I do it actually for Women's History Month. We're going into our third year of a brunch we call the Wisdom of Elders Brunch. And this brunch is designed to honor specifically Black women in Women's History Month who have been leading and making impact in business and community and entrepreneurship for decades. And so we call it Wisdom of Elders as a reverence to what it takes to lead decade after decade and stay in the game. And so the first year, most of the honorees, because I felt led to just do it for the women who impacted my life, were very personal for me. But last year, through a nomination process, I got introduced to even more amazing women. And one of the things that always sticks out collectively when I get to spend time with these women, because I get to spend time one-on-one with them in preparation for the event, is there is a resounding resilience that comes from this connection to something or someone bigger than yourself. And so the one piece of advice that I always seem to glean is no matter what you're going through, don't forget that there's a higher power or being at play, and to lean into that with so much pride and with so much gusto. And so that's the tip that always kind of keeps me going. And then just being in their presence keeps me going, because if they can continue what they've been doing, and many of these women are still like they're in their late 60s, early 70s, 80s, and they're still going and they're still effective. That in and of itself tells me, girl, please get over yourself and keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What is the presence of Power Tribe in this community?
Quentin, I think the presence is growing because of last year's challenge to be more visible, because um, we are a sacred sisterhood, we are a sacred community, but we also needed to just be a whole lot more intentional about getting out. And so the presence in the community is there are actually several of our members who serve on boards. We have a few elected officials who are members in the Power Tribe, as well as prominent community leaders, whether through their nonprofits. And then we have women who are leading organizations that are employing people here in our city that are represented. So I like to say that the Power Tribe is felt from the ground up. Um, and which is amazing because that's where the work gets done. The work gets done on the ground. My grandmother used to always say it's so important to keep your eyes on the prize, but keep your feet on the ground because it's the ground where the work gets done. So we have a lot of women doing ground work. And what we wanted to do, being visible, is to ensure that from the top down, as decisions are being made, as people are looking for resources or looking for people who are of high intelligence, of effectiveness as leaders, that they will also say, we need to call the Power Tribe and see who's there and how we can tap in. So that's how I would answer that question.
What other work do you want to do on the ground on behalf of Power Tribe?
The work I want to do on the ground on behalf of Power Tribe is to create a new normalcy around how we, the world, define leadership.
Hmm.
Because so many of coming from a leadership, I've been a leader, actually been a leader since I was 13, but my whole professional career was pretty much in leadership roles. I know that the idea of a leader was not created with a woman of color in mind, particularly definitely not with a Black woman in mind. And so what I want to do is I want to change the way we define leadership, and I want it to include Black women and women of color being at the helm of major decisions, of major roles. And so that's the groundwork that I want to do. And I'm doing that by coaching, developing, and creating space within the Power Tribe, but also using it as a case study for those who are making decisions so that they can become aligned and create their own normalcy around us being our most powerful selves, most effective selves, and everyone benefiting.
From the time that you're 13 to now, what is the biggest difference about leadership?
The biggest difference that still rings true for me is that it's certainly a responsibility and not a right. And if it is a right, it's a right that you must earn, not a right that's just given to you because. Regardless, if you get promoted or if you get, appointed or you got elected, you still have to earn the right for people to put their trust in you. Because as leaders, we are asking people to think a certain way or to think differently, to do a certain thing or to do differently. And so that requires trust. But I would say from 13 to my journey through leadership, the value of transparency and authenticity along the journey is invaluable. And what I mean by that is not only the way that I show up, but how do I create space for the people who are trusting me as a leader to also be vulnerable, to be transparent, and to be authentic? How do I create space for that?
What was that space for women of color before Power Tribe?
I think it was hit or miss. I think it depended on who your who just so happened to say, I'm going to mentor you, who just so happened to show an interest in you. And even my own career, my own journey was because I just so happened to be identified by some women, right? And so I wanted to take the chance out of it. I wanted to create space where intentionality could live and exist. And so, yeah, I forgot what your real question was, but that's how I came with
Oh, no worries, no worries. With that space, what else do you want to bring into that space to help these women become these leaders in this community?
The one thing that I want to bring into the space that's not currently in the space, and I'm going to use this very trendy word, but I'll explain, but it's networking.
Sure.
But it's networking outside of who we would normally network with. And so creating space for non women of color leaders to engage with us is what I want to still bring forward. Because again, what we're doing is creating a paradigm shift or an addition to how we view leadership. And so it's going to require a sharing of space. It's going to require us working together more intentionally. So I want to create space where we can be introduced to each other in the way that we think and lead and respond. I was just having this conversation the other day with a person, and we were talking about something as simple as facial expressions. And she was struggling with, trying to monitor and be very careful of her facial expressions. And so I let her go on and on and on. And then I just stopped her. I said, why are you concerned about that? And of course, I know the answer to that because it can create some roadblocks for us. And I said, let me offer you something to consider. Consider this. Consider that when we talk about we were talking about executive presence. When we talk about executive presence, we were never talking about us as executives, right? We are just meaning all of the curriculum, all of the books you read, all of the lectures you attend. They're not thinking about us because they didn't see us in that light. And so what they're also not thinking about, because they're not thinking about us, is the way that we show up. And so that is everything from our physical appearance, that's everything from our hair and all of the things. And so I've just decided that I'm going to retire that worry for myself. And I'm going to allow you to get comfortable with who I am and help you to work through by just being my most authentic self. Because my intensity, if it's showing up in my face, it's also going to show up in the way that I deliver on what it is that we are here to deliver. And so I always think about that from a perspective of, just we've got work to do. And that's what I'm here to lead the way.
Let me just ask you a simplistic question. You mentioned it a little bit in the last answer, Ms. Kenya, but what's stopping non-women of color from actually interacting with women of color?
Well, from a power trap perspective, there has never been an explicit invitation. And I recognize that. And it was on purpose because I had to make sure I knew what we were doing and what I was creating. Right. And so from power tribe perspective, there's just never been an explicit invitation. But broader than that, I think I forget the sister's name from Northwestern. She did her PhD, but she introduced a term that's now been integrated in Webster, but it's called misogynoir. And misogynoir is a very unique type of bias that only Black women experience. And misogynoir basically means misogyny and Black. So misogyny and racism against Black. And so that is the plight of the Black woman. And her whole doctoral dissertation was on the commonplace of misogynoir. And she wanted to give name to it because if you can't name it, you can't deal with it. If you don't name it, you won't be able to touch it, feel it, solve it. And so I went to, on a broader perspective, I think misogyny war plays a huge role in the distance, right? There are plenty of people, and let me just say, like, I've had some amazing mentors that were not, African American, Black, or even women of color, not even women. Amazing. And I'm very grateful. But on the grand scheme of things, we still get overlooked. We still get ignored. And I think it's because the lens in which society has always seen us, we're just not thought of in that manner. There are roles that we play, and anything outside of those roles, it's just we're just not seen in that manner.
What roles do you want to see African American be prominent in, particularly women?
So what we say in the Power Tribe, and I've been saying it for a very long time, I just brought it into the Power Tribe, is I believe that women of color, and particularly Black women, should be in every room where decisions are made, resources are allocated, and certainly where our communities are impacted. And so those are the rooms, everyone, where decisions are made, resources are allocated, and certainly where our communities are being impacted, we need to be in those rooms. Because everything that we have, what we're known for being, the caregiver, the nurturer, the fighter, all of the things. You think you can go from Harriet Tubman to Mary McLeod Bethune to, you run the gamut. All of those things that make us effective outside of those rooms makes us even more effective inside of those rooms. We will ask the questions. We will approach it from a much different thought process, which is not the only way, but it is in addition to what else is happening in the room. Because without us in the room, we get left out. We get left out of the solutions. We get left out of the way forward.
What more resources, Ms. Kenya, do you need to make that happen?
What more? That's a really good question. I like that question, Quintin. Thank you. It really comes down because there is a community of women that are ready to step up to the challenge. So one, to continue to grow the membership and get the word out about this community being a very sacred and safe space for you to be stretched and to grow. But the other is for organizations to know that we exist. So everything from boards to commissions to companies, when you're looking for talent, when you're looking for leadership, when you're looking for research-based thought leadership, reach out to us, because there's at least one or two of us in the community that can be and would love to be engaged. So that is, from a resource standpoint, it's really continuing to be visible and have the opportunity to talk about the Power Tribe like I'm doing with you.
How do you hope the Power Tribe will stretch and grow you as a person in the next 5 to 10 years?
Man, they stretch me and grow me all the time. It's so I've always believed that to teach is to learn. And so as you're teaching, you are also learning. If you don't believe that, then I don't know if you're really effective as a teacher. So I constantly, as I am developing, because right now I am the sole creator of content. So as I am creating content and as I am listening to the members and the challenges that they're facing, it helps drive the content. The edification and the awareness of the depth of the challenges we face is one way that I'm being stretched, but I'm also being called to courage and to bravery, to help women problem solve in a new way, and to problem solve with a forward thinking growth mindset, because I personally never want to see a world where we are not leading, where we're not in leadership positions. I don't want to see it. And so I get nervous that apathy is going to sit in. I get nervous that we're going to say we're going to throw in the towel and just go in our own corner and do our own thing, because it's tough as hell. I know it's tough as hell. I've been in these rooms for a very long time. It is tough, but I want to create curriculum and content and share knowledge and tips that helps you to take a break. I always say that rest is the revolution that those that came before us didn't quite figure out. We know better now, and that's what we can do better, is that we can include rest in the revolution. But what we cannot do is we absolutely cannot abandon ship. We absolutely cannot say, I'm not going back. And so I get stretched in the way of one being that, right? I'm a firm believer that I don't ask people to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So I'm constantly, everything I challenge them to do, I have to first have done it, or I'm on the journey to doing it, and it doesn't always feel comfortable. And then really just on this quest to globally look at women of color who are in leadership roles all over the world and what can they teach us. And the third thing is to continue to seek out elders who are willing to share so that we can honor her, but also learn from her so that her legacy lives on through us. And so they keep me stretched.
Yes.
Nonstop.
But for good reasons.
In good way. Absolutely.
Well, Kenya Dunn with the Power Tribe, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Yeah, thank you, Quintin. This was amazing.
Thank you greatly. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.